Is Wolverine immortal? You might be thinking immediately, we saw him die in Logan. Of course he isn't, but it's important to remember in Logan, where we see him die, his healing factor was slowed down by GMOs implanted by a company called Transigen. So let's ask the question, is Wolverine without a compromised healing factor immortal? Because yes, if you put a power inhibiting collar on him, he can be eliminated. But can Prime Wolverine be taken out permanently? This question will be answered first, and then the important question where the answer might shock you, can Wolverine die of old age? 1. Drowning/suffocation. Suffocation or drowning is surely a guaranteed way to take out Wolverine permanently, right? Well, astute fans will remember we saw this happen to Wolverine already. In the film X-Men Days of Future Past, Magneto tied up Wolverine and threw him into the Capitol reflecting pool in Washington, D.C. We see him drown and lose consciousness, where he remains for an undisclosed amount of time. We know enough time passes for Mystique to impersonate William Stryker, get on a boat, and get a team of people to retrieve Wolverine. That means while his body was deprived of oxygen, his healing factor prevented cellular damage, thus keeping him alive. But more likely, his body entered a state of suspended animation. In this scenario, his body was shut down non-essential functions, while his healing factor maintained his vital functions. This means Wolverine very likely could survive the vacuum of space, although he would quickly lose consciousness and would not wake up unless rescued. Second, adamantium overload. In X-Men 2, William Stryker, the man responsible for experimenting on Wolverine, states he thought Wolverine was unique. He was wrong. Wolverine then meets Lady Deathstrike, a fully mind-controlled mutant who, like Logan, has an incredibly fast healing factor and was durable enough to survive the same adamantium surgery Wolverine did. It is implied she was taken out permanently when Wolverine injected her body with gallons of liquid adamantium. As William Stryker noted, once hardened, it becomes indestructible, so she faced massive internal trauma and no way for her body to ever heal itself. So it makes logical sense, no matter how strong your healing factor is, if there is nothing to heal from, or if the tissue is completely replaced with metal, there's nothing to regenerate, leading to the end. Number 3, beheading. This is where it gets tricky. Beheading might be one way that can take out Wolverine for good. In X-Men Origins Wolverine, when fighting Sabretooth, Victor asks him, "So what are you going to do?" Wolverine replies by saying he's going to cut his head off and see if that works. At this point, there is no indication Wolverine believes Sabretooth's healing factor to be worse than his. This is his strategy against someone with a healing factor, and we see him quickly implement that in Deadpool and Wolverine. Some fans are quick to argue that Sabretooth does not have the same healing factor as Logan, although I'd argue while Wolverine heals faster, they are at the core similar. But let's consider the notion we can't compare them. We can compare Deadpool and Wolverine, however, and while we unfortunately don't have any more movie references to use, we do have the source material. Wolverine once cut off Deadpool's head and then said, with his healing factor, Wilson's got about 12 minutes before oxygen deprivation rots his brain. Well, rots it even more, to the point where he won't survive anyway. Considering how Deadpool's healing factor is superior to his or equal, this is clearly a strategy that very well could work on him. But he has an adamantium-lined skeleton, so how could he be beheaded? Well, in The Wolverine, we see his claws get cut off by heated adamantium, meaning adamantium can cut adamantium. Number 4, cellular destruction. This one we will cover quickly. Cellular destruction by reality warping an entity such as Scarlet Witch most likely can kill Wolverine. However, we saw him survive the sacred timeline coursing through his veins, as well as walking through the Phoenix. He clearly is at least very durable against such attacks. Number 5, Rogue. Charles Xavier, who literally entered Wolverine's mind, studied his anatomy, and is an expert on mutant kind, truly believes if Rogue holds on to Wolverine long enough, he could take his life. This is extravagant considering it's hard to imagine any other mutant who is able to take Wolverine's life. Number 6, The sun. Wolverine once said, "Shoot me into the sun." Magneto almost did it. I could feel my flesh boiling off. No way to survive that. And that makes sense if you truly think about it. Everything that his skeleton is protecting inside of him eventually will be completely vaporized. The intensity of the temperature the sun is emitting, literally being in that ball of energy that creates and destroys life, would completely separate Wolverine's atoms from his adamantium skeleton. Number 7. De-age him. Another way Wolverine once said he could be taken out is by de-aging his biology. It won't impact his skeleton, meaning the skeleton would burst out of his skin, dislodge his organs, and eventually, when his body begins to heal, his skin would grow apart from his bones. Eventually, his body would fall apart in so many ways that there would be nothing left to generate. So at the end of the day, is it possible to take out Wolverine? Some will cite examples like in the original stories where Wolverine regenerated from a single drop of blood. However, they often leave out this is after a cosmic power-up and was not from his natural abilities. So in my opinion, the answer is yes. But can Wolverine die of old age? We know in Logan, Wolverine's healing factor is compromised by anti-mutant GMOs found in corn syrup that resulted in rapid aging. Fans debate on whether or not adamantium contributed to his decline. Many argue the slowed down healing factor made him vulnerable to the adamantium, and others argue since adamantium is virtually indestructible, there is no way for a single molecule to enter the bloodstream to poison him. But without anything compromising his healing factor externally, such as the anti-mutant GMOs, can Wolverine live forever? He does have signs of aging right from his first appearance, based on some wrinkles alone, and aging is a sign of dying. But what's to say he aged to a certain point and stopped aging? Well, in Days of Future Past, which takes place in 2023, he is 191 and we see a patch of white hair. This is the case for his body that lived through an apocalypse and his body that lived a better life in the happy ending. Although he is barely aged, there are small indicators that he has. This means he could have lived a far longer life than we see in Logan. Based on his rate of aging, if you count 50 years for one human year, with that thinking, he could live over 2,000 years. The Wolverine we see in Deadpool and Wolverine is older than both the Wolverine we see in Days of Future Past and older than the one we see in Logan, and yet he has less signs of aging and not a single strand of white hair. It's possible this Wolverine could live a Yoda-esque lifestyle and have a lifespan of thousands of years. Everything covered in this video applies to both X-23, Deadpool, and a bit of Sabretooth. Most likely, hundreds of years in the future or possibly thousands, the only people who would have known each other in the mutant world would have been Wolverine, Sabretooth, X-23, and Deadpool. We know this puts a heavy burden on Logan, who often behaves in self-destructive ways, and as seen in Logan, sometimes in fatalistic ways. Perhaps one reason why we often see Logan drinking heavy liquor is because he knows the truth. He knows he will outlive almost every single person on the entire planet. At the end of the day, the only people he's going to recognize is Deadpool, his brother he hates, his daughter he barely wanted to know, and Thor. If you could live hundreds or thousands of years, but no one else could, would you accept that burden? Let me know in the comments.
From Marvel to monsters, we cover it all. In the world of entertainment, we stand tall. Movie Talk Now, join the fun and let's go. Discussing MCU, Godzilla, and more. Movie Talk Now, we open the door.